Welcome to Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. I'm Brett. We've got a review of Shadows of Malice. It's a cooperative game of epic fantasy from Devious Weasel Games. We did an unboxing a while ago, and we've been playing through the game and kind of getting our thoughts as to what we think about the game as a whole. For those who don't know, Shadows of Malice, it's designed by Jim Felly. It's published by Devious Weasel Games. It debuted at Gen Con in 2014. It's a game for about 2 to 8 players. You could do solo if you really wanted to. It's a cooperative game set in a fantasy setting. So for those who don't know the concept of a cooperative game, in a lot of games you're playing against your opponents and to some goal, maybe who gets the most points or just defeating the other player. Cooperative game is you work together to meet some sort of goal, to win the game either all together or you're going to fail altogether. So what a cooperative game really means is the players win together by thwarting, in this case, the shadows, or the shadows are going to defeat the players. I myself have been diving much more into cooperative gaming. I think it's a lot of fun, especially if you can get the right group of people. And this is a game I think you really need the right group of people to enjoy. The game takes from anywhere from 120 to 240 minutes. I mean, this is a game you're going to play for an afternoon or an evening. This isn't a quick pick up and play game. I don't really want to play a whole game because honestly, to watch it would just be boring beyond all hell, but to kind of give you a general idea. The game's made up of these boards. Depending on how long you want to play is how many boards you use. One board would be much quicker than using all of them. What is kind of cool, and will say I like this mechanic, is you can set up the game a bunch of ways. You can have boards actually touching each other, and if you notice, there's these symbols on the edge of the boards, which helps you combine them for good setup. So for instance, here I would want to try to find something that is circle, triangle, square, and let's see if I can find one quickly that has circle, triangle, square. Circle. Of course, I'm probably not going to find one because I'm shooting a video, and why would it be easy like that? Let's see if we can find another one. Circle, triangle, and then diamond. Circle, triangle, diamond. Circle, triangle, diamond. Circle, square, diamond. Circle. Alright, whatever. It's not important. Basically, it'll help you figure out how to build your boards together to set things up. Now, depending on how you do your boards, you'll see like either roads will continue. This would be kind of maybe one version of that. You can kind of see the road continues in there, though the hexes don't really match up. Yeah, the hexes don't really match up. Or you can set up your board different ways, in which case you have to port around. But I'm getting into the nitty-gritty. I really don't want to bore you. Basically, the game as a whole is you control an avatar of light. Your goal is to defeat the shadow god Xulthûl. You don't want him to rise, and if he does and gets really kind of powerful, he's going to kind of kill all of you. You lose. It's really kind of difficult to beat him. So what you do is, to win the game, you uncover light wells, which start out as strongholds. So light wells are these things. Your light wells are put out there. There's a formula to get it all done right, and it's random, so you don't necessarily know what type of light well that you're getting. The tiles you use depends on how many players you have and how long you want the game to go. At the same time, there's things like mystics. The mystics give you different abilities based off of what's on the back. You don't necessarily know. And then there's creatures. You don't necessarily know what is you're going to get with the creatures and how that happens. And then you've got cities, and cities have randomness about it as well. And then your little tokens are here. So this game, I've been kind of describing to some folks, and the way I really like to describe it is this is a D&D board game, a D&D mixed with 1980s or 70s token board games. So there's a lot of games that I tried playing when I was a kid, and they're way too complicated for me, and I never quite got it all. Just like any D&D game, there's a lot of randomness to it. You generate creatures, you fight, there's dice rolling, but the thing that's nice is the game, you do it all with D6s. You don't need to worry about D4s and D10s and D20s. You're just dealing with your D6s. The type of things that you have to figure out is, for instance, if you fight a creature, it depends. You roll a die, and depending on what you roll, depending where you are, is what creature you're fighting. Then you have to roll your creature's power, and that all has variation. And then creature abilities, you have to roll that. So it's really like you're playing a D&D game, you don't need a dungeon master. So that's actually really, really cool. I like that a lot. It's a great aspect to it. A bunch of friends of mine have wanted to play D&D. We can't really find a decent group to go and get a dungeon master. Like, this is a type of game that we would dive into play instead of that. It's a great in addition to or alternative for. That being said, the game does involve a lot of math. So there's a lot of rolling dice, checking out charts. To give you an idea, we have a flow chart, a literal flow chart to do combat. There is a flow chart for turn sequence, though the flow chart's not quite as bad. There's a lot of rolling dice and figuring out charts. The one thing that I really feel like it helped me a lot is I watched the how to play videos. There's been a whole bunch posted on sites like Board Game Geek. They're super, super helpful. I kind of read through the rules. I generally got it. Watching the actual videos of the gameplay was so much easier. It helped a ton. It made me it basically got me from going from hating the game to having some enjoyment playing it. Really, this is a role-playing, an RPG in board game form. You're moving around, you're killing creatures, you're leveling up so you can go take on the bad guys. That is Final Fantasy and all those games that I played as a kid in board game form. Now, there are some negative things to the game. One, it's very involved. There's a lot of checking sheets and checking rolling dice and checking helping guides like this. So if you're not really into that sort of thing, basically if you're not into the old school role-playing experience where you needed to look at a lot of charts, you're probably not going to enjoy this game. The one thing, and it seems to be a pretty universal criticism of the game, is while the rule book it takes you through everything. It explains things really well. You're probably going to have to read it once or twice to kind of get through it. The one thing that everyone seems to think the game is missing is a table of contents. There's no table of contents in the game or in the book. So when a question does come up, you're fumbling around trying to find answers. Luckily, there is some layout and thought process, so you generally can go and dive in and find things relatively quickly. But still, that would be something, if there was a second edition of the game, I would highly recommend it. It also has the guides within, which you're definitely going to want some printed out ones to help you out. These, which came with my game, I don't know if they're necessarily ones that come with every single game. I found really, really helpful. And they basically help things along, speed things up, and didn't make me want to kill someone. In the unboxing, I believe I did say it, there is tons of materials you get to the game. So not only do you get all the chits to help you build your game, build your world, and randomize stuff, which is kind of cool. I do like the concept and the way things are randomized. You don't know necessarily what's going to happen. Very much like a D&D game. There are cards that help you gain masteries and abilities. There's things like fate cards, which kind of put some randomness in. You get treasures. And then you've got these shards, which you use throughout the game. There's a lot of shards, which help with using abilities. And then we've kind of got all these life tokens to help you track things. You get a lot. It's just you get a hell of a lot. The box is super heavy. You really feel like you're getting your money's worth when you pick it up. For the game itself, though, it's a mixed bag. If you're really into the old school RPGs, You know, D&D, when it was a lot of charts and you really needed a dungeon master who knew what the hell they were doing, you're going to enjoy the game. You'll probably really dig it. Some of the things that I kind of wasn't too fond of, you might like. If you're looking for like a quick game that has a fantasy setting, that a cooperative game, there's a lot of other ones out there. This isn't a game for novice and beginners. I would go with that. This is one that you're really going to want to be into the fantasy idea. You're really going to want to enjoy leveling up and not really questing, because there's not quest per se, but going around a board, leveling up, fighting monsters. If you're not into that sort of thing, you're probably not going to enjoy the game. The other thing is the game is very minimalist. You can see, as far as like bad guy tokens, this is the difference between the main bad guy and the other bad guys. There's not much of a difference there. When it comes to the actual characters, we've got these kind of things that remind me of the Matrix of Leadership from Transformers, so there's not a huge difference between them. There's some colors, a little bit of design. Mystic has an M on it. There's just symbols on the back. The monster's a claw. C is for city. You're looking at a very, very minimalist design. Yeah, it could have been cooler to get some minor changes for, like, maybe instead of city having a C for a city, having an actual city on it. I don't mind the claw for the monster. Maybe instead of an M for a mystic, there was some symbol. Minor changes, I think, would have upped the value, or not really up the value, because you get a lot for your value. Maybe up the presentation a little bit. But as a whole, that's not what this game's about. For me, I haven't talked to the designers at all. I don't really know what their thought process was with a lot of this. To me, this feels very much like a lot of the chit games that I attempted to play in the 80s and 90s when I was much, much younger and not as well versed into games, and the games that I never really got into because I thought they were way too complicated. That's what this reminds me a lot of. Like, that's that old school military space chit games. But in this case, it's a fantasy setting and takes a lot from RPGs from that time as well, with a lot of the leveling up, fighting monsters, rinse, repeat. If you're really into that sort of a game, or that sort of video game, that concept, you're probably, and you like the idea of a cooperative board game, you're going to probably enjoy Shadows of Malice. If the concept just completely turns you off, you're not. Let's just be honest with it. This is going to be a game that you're either going to really like or you're going to hate. I don't think there's going to be a lot in between. I'm one that I'm giving this more shots. I like cooperative games. I want to get into D&D. I want to play D&D, so this is an alternative for me. So this is one that I am going to try out and probably get more and more into and appreciate it. I can also see folks using this to homebrew and enhance their own role-playing games that are going on. There are ways I can see that being done, which is pretty cool and is a nice opportunity to use more for everything. As a whole, Shadows of Malice is going to be really comes down to, do you like the concept? The concept of a cooperative fantasy set board game that involves a lot of leveling up, that the art's very minimalist, and yeah, I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. This isn't a quick game. It's one that's going to take a couple hours to play. And yeah, I think that's Shadows of Malice kind of in the nutshell, and a great way to describe it. I myself, as I said, this is one I'm going to play more. I'm going to try to get more into, really test it out. It's definitely one that took a lot of learning to pick it up and go, and I will readily admit that. So I feel like the more I play, obviously, the easier it is. So I'm enjoying it. I think it's a good game. It's a lot of fun. Devious Weasel was really, really great. Hooked us up. Really appreciated them sending us a copy for me to try out. We are down the road. We'll be launching some live games. We're still figuring out the best way to do that and a decent setup to do that. And this is going to be one of those games that I think we're going to try to get on that. This would be a very interesting one to do afternoon of live gaming for people to check out. And see. So, down the road, hopefully that will happen. No promises, though. But thanks for watching. This is Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. I'm Brett. You can catch us every single day at graphicpolicy.com. Of course, we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all at Graphic Policy. We keep it nice and consistent. Until next time, keep rolling those die and keep it geeky.